Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined once again for DiBella's Digest by the man himself, Lou DiBella. And Lou, how has your week been?
It's been busy. It's been busy. It's still strange times indeed, but it's good to return to some level of normalcy. I'm celebrating the fact I'm 2 weeks removed from my second shot, so I feel a little bit less, sort of paranoid about everything, and I'm good. I mean, I'm working real hard, and it's nice to see things getting to more frequency and normalcy.
Yeah, no, I agree. Things are starting to open up again. I think everyone's
like getting a big Showtime schedule.
Neat segue there, Lou. And funnily enough, that's just what I wanted to talk to you about this week. Showtime announced their spring-summer schedule, which has caused a lot of conversation on social media, as you would expect. Only one of the shows that they've announced on pay-per-view, which is a good thing. The rest are on normal subscription TV. From the schedule that you've seen, what was your kind of overall reaction? Kind of positive, negative, in the middle?
I know it was positive. It's not a perfect schedule, but it's strong. I love one of the fights. One of my favorite fights on the horizon is the Charlo fight with Castano. I love that fight. And there were some quality fights on the card. There were three cards I will miss. I don't want to get into all of them, but the guy. I don't. The Charlos are excellent fighters. Both of them are A-level guys, and I don't like to see an A-level guy fighting a C-. There's no reason. I mean, I have better guys at middleweight that would have been available. They're all over the place. But I don't get that. I don't. It's a wasted opportunity because I really don't care about that. I know what's happening in that fight, and I just don't care. I don't. It's a good schedule. It's right now you're not getting every fight card of equal significance. It's not happening anywhere, right? But I think that it's a strong schedule. It's a lot of regularity. There are some very competitive matchups. There are some live underdogs. If you go through, let's go through the schedule. But there's some, I basically think there are a lot of solid fights.
Well, you mentioned Jermell Charlo against Juan Montiel as one you're not particularly looking forward to. Why do you think he's decided to drop down in opposition after fighting Derevyanchenko and being very well received?
We discussed this in some previous of our conversations. Boxing is a business, even for the fighter, and it's a risk reward situation, right? Well, Charlo just fought his last fight on pay-per-view, and thinks he's is a guy that's used to making big money. He's probably making good money for this fight, but it's live on Showtime. It's not on pay-per-view. It's not so there's a trade-off. He may be taking. You don't know what kind of reward he's taking, but if you're not taking your usual rewards, you're going to take less risk. I'm just guessing. I don't think the Charlos are afraid or shy away from fighting anybody, but I think that it could have just been attributable to business. I don't like the other fight. I don't like at all is the Guzman. Is it what's the fight with go through Gamboa? Is it Gamboa?
Gamboa against Colbert. Is it Colbert?
Yeah, I mean Gamboa had a name, but Gamboa is now there to be just. It's not like I understand that one more. And as a promoter, because the truth of the matter is, Colbert's trying to build his resume up and build up his own star power. He's going to beat the shit out of Gamboa, and Gamboa is a name, right? But now at this point of his career, Gamboa is a name that's there to give his best and lose. Do you know what I mean?
I agree.
And I still have respect for Gamboa, but I don't like that fight. And that was the other one I really could miss.
Now, the PPV out of the schedule is topped by Gervonta Davis going up 2 weight classes to fight Mario Barrios, which is a very intriguing fight. I don't know if it's a pay-per-view headliner, but then I really like the chief support as well.
You know what? I have no problem with being on pay-per-view because it's same theory I have on everything right now. It's a pay-per-view fight if you want to buy it. Yeah. If you like the card and you want to buy it, it's a pay-per-view. Obviously, they believe by going pay-per-view, they're going to generate more revenue than they would have gotten going on Fox or Showtime. So, I got no issue with that. I like the fight. It is intriguing. I mean, Barrios is a solid guy. I promoted a few of his fights. He's a solid guy. And he's 140 and he's long. I mean, and for Davis, I mean, think what you will of Davis in general, but as a fighter, he's a really good fighter. And this is a challenge. I mean, he's moving up. He's skipping 2 weights. Frankly, he's really skipping 1 weight because I don't think he's ever going to. He's a 35-pounder. He's not a guy that's going to be staying at 130. But it's more of a 1-weight leap, but it's still a leap in reach and length. And Barrios it's fighting a good guy a couple of weight classes up. I mean, Davis trying to make his stripes to say I'm a top 5 pound for pound guy. I like the matchup. There's nothing not to like. Whether you want to pay for it or not, I probably will pay for it, but because I happen to really like the matchup. But is it a pay-per-view? I'm tired of this. Well, it's great, but it's not a pay-per-view. A pay-per-view is what people are willing to pay for it.
And also, you've got Erickson Lubin against Jason Rosario as the chief support, which could easily be a main event on regular Showtime in its own right.
Well, that's a good fight. I mean, that's a good fight, and if you're buying for the main event, you're getting a really good co-feature. So I think I hope they. I don't know. Did they announce the retail price? No, probably not.
No.
But I hope they keep that retail price below $60. Honestly, like that's something I really hope. Like on any circumstance, that it never goes over $60. It'd be one thing these Triller people are doing right is sort of going above $50 when the economy in the world is where it is right now. In my mind, for like a couple of hours of combat sports, it's a big ask, and I think that I don't mind that as a pay-per-view. I just hope they keep the price within reason.
And then in August, a bit of a kind of sleeper under the radar hit potentially, Jermell Casimero against Guillermo Rigondeaux. I mean, that's a quality fight, isn't it?
It's a quality fight. And look, Rigondeaux is a tremendous talent. I mean, he's not everybody's cup of tea to watch. But also Casimero's style is going to make sure it's not a stinker of a fight, right? Yeah. So you got to like the fight because you're getting Rigondeaux is absolutely one of the better talents in the sport, absolutely. And he's fighting a guy whose pressure and activity rate and intangibles is going to force a fight that's not going to be hard to watch. So, yeah, I think that's an intriguing matchup. I like that fight. Yeah.
And then they're kicking off the whole thing with Luis Nery and Brandon Figueroa in a title fight at 122. But the winner of that is then to fight Stephen Fulton at the end of the schedule. So they've kind of got it mapped out.
And I like that. I think that was a good. I give credit to PBC and to Espinoza on that little move. I think it's intriguing. You know what I mean? I like the fact. They went all the way to the back, which would be the natural cycle of the winner of that fight to come back, particularly since the winner of that fight's been sitting there for a long time. Yeah. Those guys have been inactive. So they're going to bring those guys back at the end of the cycle in another quality matchup for hardcore fans and casuals that tune into Showtime that night are going to see a good fight either night. So I like that as a programming move. I applause to Heyman and Espinoza on that. I think it was a good move. Look, it's a strong schedule. Like every other schedule, there are weak points in it. But overall, I think it's pretty good. I mean, I'm looking forward to a number of the fights on it. Yeah. I think I could make a pretty good guess of who's going to win most of the fights, to be honest with you. But it doesn't really matter because they're still some of those fights are among the really best matchups you can make. And I certainly think that a fight like Charlo and Castano is just, it's a boxing fan's dream.
And what has drawn a lot of praise, and it's not the first time a broadcaster has done this in the last couple of years, is the fact that they have announced all those shows en masse or en bloc. And I know Eddie Hearn did it a little while ago. I think Showtime did it previously last year as well. And fans seem to respond really well to that, having it all mapped out in front of them, even though I think...
it gives them something to talk about. It gives them something to talk about at that moment and whatever. I mean, I don't think people remember what that stuff is until you remind them again. But I think it excites people because I see it among the fighters that are fighting, they're going to be some of your favorites. They're coming back. There are some quality fights there. I think, look, all of us in the sport who know anything about the sport, there's not a person that wouldn't be looking forward to, the Charlo fight with Brian. There's nobody there's nobody in boxing who knows anything that's going to say that Davis against Barrios is other than an excellent matchup. Got to be a fucking idiot or not to know that. And by the way, casuals that aren't going to know everything about these matchups, like I said, if they tune into boxing that night, they're going to see something that's going to drive them to come back. So I love, I like fights like that, and I think that, I think the schedule is well mapped out. I think fans look. I like the idea. If you could map out a schedule, for example, like I think it's very important to get people talking. And look, Showtime put themselves, right back on the map, in terms of social media conversation among boxing people, getting attention among boxing media. They made a statement by putting out the schedule, and that's why they did it. I mean, and that's why Eddie did it. And it also softens the blow. Like you announce on its own that Charlo fight with I don't even know Montiel, yeah. And everyone's going to shit on it. And you put it in the midst of an otherwise strong schedule. And someone like me is saying, okay, well, I don't like that fight. Really, I know who's going to win. I think they could have made a better matchup 18 different ways. But the rest of the stuff is okay, and there's probably a business reason why they're giving him an easy fight. And I'm not gonna, it's not gonna make me bitch and moan.
And can we expect now, Fox, DAZN, et al. To bring out their own schedules and for them to be similarly good?
I think you're going to see. I don't know. I think you're going to see. Look, PBC has a lot of star fighters, and if you look at the Showtime schedule, even though it's, I'd say overall a positive schedule, a quality schedule, there are a lot of the biggest stars that aren't on that schedule. So obviously, you think that those fights are likely to be Fox or Fox pay-per-view, right? So people are going to be looking to see what's happening with Mikey Garcia, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, go through the list of the major, Pacquiao, Deontay Wilder, go through the list of all these fighters that have associations with PBC. I think that people will be looking forward to it. I don't know, for a lot of reasons, including, trying to make biggest and best fights. I don't know if they're going to make the same big announcement with 8 months in advance. I don't know. But I think that they certainly have a lot of firepower that's still going to be on Fox. But I'm curious if they're going to give any great fight, to Fox Network, because the PBC on Fox shows, honestly, and what's coming up, they don't have me excited. Like, I'm curious, are they going to give us something that, I think one fight that's going to come back probably is the rematch with Kaunaki and Helenius, right? I think you'll probably see that on Fox as part of a show. Deontay's in that arbitration right now. If they don't win that arbitration, see, they're not going to come out and announce Deontay Wilder yet because they don't know what's going to happen with them. Sure. I don't think they're going to announce Spence yet because they don't have I'm hearing that Spence and Ugas is probably coming. Yeah. And that's probably, I'm guessing, and knowing, I don't think that's going to be a Fox Live fight. I think that's going to be, my guess is that's going to be a pay-per-view card.
Sure.
But I think you're going to, I think there's some big stuff that's still going to come on Fox and on Fox pay-per-view.
Great stuff. Well, Lou, really appreciate it, as always. And hopefully next week we'll have even more to discuss when the other networks perhaps respond.
Oh, and since we're talking afterward, right, let's see how good you and I are in this. Give us your prediction for what will have happened when we next talk in Andrade and Liam.
I think Andrade points probably relatively close, like 116, 112, something like that.
I'm going to guess I think I sort of agree with you. I think Andrade pulls it out. If Andrade can dominate Liam and if Liam can cause a fight to break out and Andrade beats him up in a fight, wins decisively, I think it's the most significant win Andrade's had. And I think Liam, I have to admit I put a few quid on Liam just for shits and giggles. I think he's a live underdog, and I think the odds I got at least were a little bit too wide. But
we shall see, because obviously.
But I think the likelihood is, look, Andrade's very, very talented. What Andrade needs to do more now is not, he needs to win, but how he wins now at this point in his career is hugely important, right? And I think that's why next week when we talk, we'll be, reflecting on that fight a little bit, because it's going to speak some volumes about, look, Andrade has if Andrade's in a terrifically pleasing fight in prime time in UK, where UK fans see him winning an incredibly pleasing fight, his marketability starts rising across continents, and he's looking to get a shot at Alvarez. He's looking to get a shot at Triple G. He needs a career-defining fight. He's capable of winning one of those kind of fights. I mean, certainly. I mean, he's not going to be a favorite against Canelo, but he'd certainly be a favorite in my mind against Triple G, I think, at this point. Tonight's going to be very telling. And Liam Williams, if Liam Williams can push around Andrade and pull off an upset, Britain's got another star. I was very impressed when Williams beat I no longer promote him, but I promoted Elante's Fox for a long time, and I have great respect for Elante. He's a good kid, good. I like his brother, I like his family, but he's also talented. And Liam just bossed him around, and I think that we went there, and I know that Elante was surprised how hard Liam hit and how strong physically Liam is. Yeah, and it impressed me, and that's what that made me really say, "Woo, I underestimated Liam Williams." And then when I looked at some tapes and I watched the last couple of fights of both guys, I see a good fight. In the rear view mirror, I think we're going to see a good fight. Andrade's a favorite for a reason, but I don't think either one of us is going to be shocked next week when we talk if Williams pulled off an upset. I don't think it's going to be shocking.
No, not at all. And we can always cut out our predictions if we're wrong.
Nah, I like the people. Let me tell you something. At least they're hearing educated opinions, from both of us. At least they're hearing educated opinions. And I have to say that if I was, I don't gamble on fight cards where I have any fighter on the card, even if it's the fight doesn't have. I have to have nothing to do with the card if I'm gonna put a bet, legally with somebody, whatever. I don't. But my track record when I don't have a fighter on the card for winning or like in boxing is not bad. I'm probably on about a 2/3, 1/3 clip, or at least 70-30.
We need to start doing these predictions earlier in the week so everyone can benefit from the expertise.
Yeah, we can even look at some fights farther in advance so that we're actually talking.
Yeah, that seems more sensible. Yeah,
that's also sensible. All right, have a good weekend, Dan.
And you, Lou. Take care. Speak to you soon.
Take it easy, but wait a minute. I did order. I have to admit, because over here it's an afternoon fight. I'm not watching
Askren and Jake Paul.
Yeah, I'm not watching the zone show's about to start right now, honestly. But it's Saturday afternoon in the spring, and I have shit to do, so I'm not watching the whole card. But I will be back to put on the zone for the main event.
Yeah,
but it's an afternoon fight here. But I did order. I ordered Jake Paul against Ben.
Do you want to predict that one as well?
What?
You want to predict that one as well?
Oh, I'll predict that one. Jake Paul, KO. I didn't pick the round, but Jake Paul, KO.
Yeah, I think that's a safe prediction there.
I mean, that guy Ben looked like me at the weigh-in. I mean, and to be honest with you, I'm fatter than he. I'm bigger than him, but I probably have better contour than he does. He looked like somebody's dad.
You might have better boxing skills as well, Lou. I mean, he's not known for his striking ability, is he? So.
No, he does. He's not known for his striking ability. And I want to tell you this. I hate to say this, but by the way, I met Jake Paul. We talked a couple of times. When I saw him, I was in Miami, whatever, and I actually liked him from the brief conversations I had with him. I don't think he's disrespecting boxing in any way. I think he takes it very seriously. I don't think he's terrible.
No, he's not.
I'm not saying he's an Olympic pro. I don't think he's terrible. I think there are guys rated in top 30 in the world or top 20 in the world that probably Jake Paul would be competitive with. What's going to be interesting, and I'm going to have this conversation at some point with with Peter Kahn and a Triller, just in terms of like what I think is interesting. I think in a fight or two, it's going to be interesting to see a matchup between Jake Paul and a guy that's really thought of as a prize fighter, like not a champion, not whatever, but a real guy at cruiserweight, or at light heavyweight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't think Paul is a joke, and I think a little bit that Ben's a wrestler. I don't give a shit how good a trainer you put a wrestler in with. I actually think at this point, he's been training almost full time for a couple of years. Jake Paul right now is a boxer. How good you think he is doesn't matter. Jake Paul's legitimately a boxer. I'll give him that level of respect. I don't think he's a goofball. I saw some things when he wiped out that basketball player in the last fight. It looked like a boxer, was fighting a guy who had no idea how to fight.
Yeah.
That's how it looked. So, he's not terrible. So, yeah, I'm intrigued. If he blows out this guy, Ben, I'm going to start to say, okay, we'll put him in with a real striker next time, someone that provides, a challenge. And then in his next fight, put him in with a ranked boxer, see what the fuck happens. I'd like to see him in a real boxing match soon. I don't think he's there yet, but, I sound like a Jake Floyd fan. It's fucking scaring me. But I have nothing against Jake Paul, and BJ Flores is an old friend, and I know the kid's taking it seriously, man. I hear that motherfucker works hard. He works hard. He's a little bit of a goofball, but he works very hard, and I don't think he's disrespecting boxing in any way.